So we have 52% in charge of our physical body, or 52% of just being. They're like, you have to understand the other aspects of the 100% if you want to use the 0 to 100% scale.
Okay.
Oh. So if you have 52% of just what your body needs to survive, just to thrive, just to be, physically generating your own energy essence of survival. So they're getting pulled into the physical body, what it needs to live, survive, have strength, have all that stuff, okay? So like, now you look outside that 52%. Now 52%, oh sorry, not 52%. Now outside of that is the energy that's around you, that's emanating around you. It's like I get your circle, your bubble, wah, wah, wah. And then now outside of that, you have another percentage that is now affecting your 52%. So this is kind of like outside your space, outside your aura, your bubble, however you want to define it. There's this space around it. And I feel like I want to look through a whole bunch of books to try and find this image that I'm seeing. There is I don't know why I hear 74. 74% has a lot to do with the environmental, your atmosphere, Earth's atmosphere, 74. So in between 52 and 74%, like whatever that percentage would be.
Sure.
What's that, 22?
Yes.
Okay. So we got 74. One is 6 over here. What's the other? The other is, what the frick is this? I get pulled to matter. Space, matter. It's like nothingness but everything. Some people would define this as consciousness. It's like the space of nothingness but everything. It's like the concept, the start of matter.
In
whatever that.
I think ancient Egyptian lore, it's the sea of, I think it's Re. Re came before Ra. Ra is the sun. Re is like the void.
Okay.
Well, and I hesitate to use this word. I'm going to use it though. It was called the Sea of Chaos.
Okay.
But we're so afraid of chaos. It's not chaos like we think of it today, though. It meant that it wasn't it wasn't organized into matter yet. It wasn't that it was chaotic and frightening. Like people's definition today of chaos is basically more dystopia and fear. This wasn't dystopia and fear. It just wasn't organized yet into matter.
Right.
It was intelligent. It was all sorts of stuff. It just wasn't in form.
Yeah.
Which was interesting because you picked up on form. You picked up on matter, I should say.
Yeah. So it's like, it almost looks like, it looks black to me, but yet when you push things together, it like creates something.
Yeah.
It's like this.
Can we call it, is void a word for right now?
Yeah.
Okay, and are you saying that space from like 74% of the atmosphere to, if we want to just call it the scale of 100, to the 100% is the...
Yeah.
Is that the space
Yeah, it's like we got 52% is like physical, mental, spiritual, everything in there. So it's not just a physical thing. There's emotions in there, and there's just our vibration that we as a soul in a physical body is emanating out. Okay.
Yeah.
52. Then that from 52 to 74 is like the environmental that we're on Earth plane. If you want to call it Earth, that matter, that energy, that space, that concepts, all that stuff. That also includes like the environment around. So they're as above, so below. So and they're even going into Earth. So it's like everything that has a physical form in some they're like in some dimension.
In some dimension, sure. Yep, in some dimension, everything has a form.
Yeah. So that's that one. Wow. And then the other piece of it, so that's up to 74. So then you have 74 to 100% is like 26%.
Mm-hmm.
Is then the void, if you want to call it that way. The nothingness.
Mm-hmm. It's where everything comes from that.
Correct. Does that even sound right?
Mm-hmm. It does. It's a really interesting
so we can't
gauge of 0 to 100 because it in a linear fashion, which is how we were trained to think and don't need to think in certain ways linearly any longer. People would say, if I have a 0 to 100% charge, 100% means I'm vibrant and alive and happy and full of purpose, and 0 means I'm dead. And it's like, no, actually, you hit 52%, you're vibrant.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a really different gauge.
There is a vibrational scale.
A vibrational scale, okay.
There's a vibrational scale that once they hit 42%, 42, like there's a number of 42, something like that, somewhere, it says that's where the start of Cancer is. I've seen that.
I would venture to say that like 52% is the minimum charge we need to be in what I would call wholeness.
Yes.
Once you've hit 52%, you are on your way to greater and greater and greater levels of wholeness should you choose to go that route.
Yes.
If you're below 52%, you're
diseases.
dis-ease.
Yes.
Non-harmony, whatever. Dystopia, right. And so the goal, in a way, it's like the set point. I don't know if it's the goal. Like the touchstone, the place that we can always come back to is 52% would be ideal. Anything outside of that is, hey, bonus, way to go.
Right. And I
just
feel
to like keep it, to simplify it somewhat for people so we don't feel overwhelmed.
And this 52%, this is where most people, they feel like once they achieve that, they've achieved everything. And
it's literally just the beginning.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're going to go up and down around whatever, the 52%. I would say the 52% actually really, to me, also has something to do with attachment and detachment. Okay. A lot of people will get to 52%, say, I'm done. They get attached to it. And what will happen is your 52% will go away somehow because we're not supposed to stop. There's a continuous change. There's a continuous fluctuation, and it's learning to be okay with the fluctuation. It's learning to be okay with, I've now gone to, from 52%, if I want just to scale it, I'm from 52% and now today I'm feeling more like 62.
Yeah.
And the next day we get very attached to the 62 and then we wake up the next day and we're back down to 52 and we can get kind of angry and mad.
Yep.
And the point is to learn how to flow and move with these changes in what we would call the changes in vibration. And we're scaling it right now. We're giving it a percentage so that our mind, our conscious mind, can wrap around it and understand it a little bit. And then I think eventually we'll do some tools I'd call it tools like visualization or meditation or something where we go beyond understanding this in our mind to truly experiencing it. Like you've said, you've worked with clients and they're like, but I don't get it. And you're like, but do you feel better? How do you feel inside? Do you feel peaceful? They're like, I feel peaceful. I feel calm. All right, see, now you get the 52% outside of your conscious mind. You're getting it in your body. I think what we're saying here, if I were to sum it up, is like this 52% becomes a really important piece for being human because it's like our vibrational tuning fork. It's like guiding us.
Yep.
All of the time. And yet we were trained to not pay attention or to deny or to block or all sorts of ways to not engage this very, very powerful and simple like feedback system that we have every day.
Yep, it was designed as a safety mechanism. In reality, it was a hindrance. It was to keep you...
Hold on a second. It was designed as a safety?
Yes.
But it became...
like a hindrance.
A hindrance, but it's not supposed to be a hindrance.
No.
It's supposed to be a safety
that's what the initial thought process was, is to, when you humans designed the concepts of don't touch this, this is hot, and then the repeatedness of it over and over. Repetitiveness helps teach. So weird. Okay, repetitiveness helps teach. So you continuously read, you get better at reading. It's a repeating pattern, okay? The more you read deeper level books, you expand your knowledge, you become more consciously aware. It is retraining the brain to open up more channels, open up more doorways. You get to a point in human evolution as to where they want to stop you. And I get pulled to a lot of our standard thinking in the world right now is like, you've reached this goal. Thank you for reaching this goal, you know? And you've reached the top of the ladder. Now you have nowhere else to go. So people get stuck there because it's it feels comfortable to them. And it's something that they know. But they're showing me in the past, if I go centuries ago, there was no like limit. So people would keep going. And then you have other people that were not educating themselves. I'm going to use the word education. Not understanding things. They got comfortable because that was safe to them because of XYZ happened. So let's play a factor in back in caveman days. And people they knew that, okay, I got to get smarter than this animal or I'm going to get killed. So either you fight, flight, or freeze. So it comes down to just the basics of survival. Fight, flight, or freeze. So people who are fighting, who want to say, okay, I got to get smarter than them. Let's think, let's watch their tendencies. So then you have people that are following them and they're learning from them and they're educating them. And you get to the point where now you become like the alpha. Now you're in charge of these animals. So the animals have to respect you, your boundaries, your education. People have taken that though, and they've turned it into power. So then now these other people down here who have run away and hid, they're like, oh, yep, keep hiding. I got you. I'm going to help you out. And in essence, that has completely shifted our whole world around.
Interesting. So, a couple of things there. We as through humans, yep, and how we evolved and grew with things. Basically, we convoluted safety, comfort, and attachment.
Yes.
And what we would like to do is to help guide people to get clear on what being safe in your body means, on what comfort or comfortable means, and also what attachment means. Because I know a lot of people who will say, I love comfort. There's a place and a time for comfort.
Absolutely.
But I've heard a lot of people use comfort as more attachment, which means they don't want to change, which means I got to the top of the ladder and I'm going to stay here. But here's what I learned about the way humans are made, if you will, which I think is funny and simultaneously is a tad bit maddening.
Yep.
We like to climb the mountain, and we will actually, I'm going to say it, bitch and complain while we're climbing the mountain. This is so hard, it's so that, it's this, it's oh my God, and I don't want to do this, but actually we do.
Yeah.
That's why we keep doing it. But part of the bitching and complaining is a release of some of the built up like energy within us, emotion, feeling, or whatever. We need to, it's like a release valve. Because it is kind of hard. Or in that Earth is a challenge, I should say. Not that it's so hard. It can be challenging. So climbing the mountain's challenging. We complain, we do whatever, and then we get to the top of the mountain. And we sit there, and we look down for roughly 3 seconds before we go, look up what's next. And everything that we just did collapsed. All the complaining. Yep. So we really weren't made to get to the top of the ladder and stop. No. We were made to climb the mountain. We were made to sit at the top of the mountain in comfort for about 3 seconds before we proceed on in the next challenge. Yeah. And it is a little bit of a maddening experience because what you just described, the tools that are needed to be okay with that, to love and embrace and enjoy that process, have really kind of disappeared in modern society. They're not gone. They're just not as prevalent.
Yep.
It's, hey, give me your power. Stop. I'll take care of you. And then
Yep.
people go, well, I'm not sure if I want to do that or not.
Yep.
But they're also not sure that they have what it takes to, say, get to the top of the ladder or the top of the mountain over and over again. And they do. I assure
Yep.
you, they do.
And that's the people that are, like I get pulled back to in the past. We have all these tools and resources that this person figured out either through their own body's intuition or paying attention to the surroundings. They're being aware of their situations, aware of the physical body, aware of that surrounding. They're aware of the animals per se that are around. They're watching everything. And they get to the point where they can feel the vibrations all around. Okay. So they're taking that experience and they have become now, that an animal's not going to kill them. They have all the tools and resources. What the problem is we as society were never taught on how then to teach the next.
I think we actually were taught.
Yeah.
We haven't been taught recently.
Correct.
And so it's kind of, in a sense, lost.
Yeah.
But it's available. So
Yes.
here's an interesting question my mind posed in, I'm pretty sure, my early 20s is when it was. If not, maybe perhaps my teens, the first time I thought it though. These things would come to me, okay? I'm not thinking them, Kim. I don't have enough evolution at that point in my life to be generating these things from my own evidence that I've gathered and collected. These things would just come into my mind. And one of them was, how did people way back in time, how did people discover that right next to the plant that can harm you is the plant that can heal you?
Yeah.
This is a question that popped into my head somewhere between, let's say, I know it was 17 to 22, I don't know exactly when, but roughly in that era. I just was how does that happen? And the reason why I think that question could pop into my head is because there was an era of humanity that was in tune, just like you just described. They were aware and they were in tune. Yeah. They actually were not through this horrible flight, or freeze era. They were kind of, let's put it on a linear time frame. They were before that. They were more in a circular life.
Yep.
They were born and died in that linear sense, but they didn't walk it as a straight line. They walked it as a circle.
Yep.
We can have the circle and the line, anything that we want now. The point is, you really nailed it with the, in my opinion, you really nailed it with the, and then humans did this and created power.
Yes. They've taken that concept of the fight, flight, and freeze.
Yeah.
And they utilized it.
Against themselves or others.
Yep.
And others, yeah. Some people only use it against themselves and don't use it against others.
Correct.
And today, in today's world, say, I'm a very good person because I don't use it against others. But you beat the shit out of yourself. Others don't beat the shit out of themselves so much, but they really do use it against others. And I personally believe that the era of the battling of power like that, to me, I'm over it. It's uninteresting. It's probably raging worse than it ever has, quite honestly. And yet, when I see it, I am not interested in it at all, Kim. I'm not in denial. I'm just not interested. Because I think there's something far more engaging and interesting for us to put our awareness, our time, our attention, to put our power.
Because when you hit your 52%, that is when you know your body well enough. You know your physical, mental, spiritual body. You are good with who you are. Very accepting of it. And you understand that there is fight, flight, and freeze. You understand there is emotions. You understand those, and you are able to listen to them and give them their, I don't want to call the word power. When you're able to give it validity and just a sense of peace, to acknowledgement, there is the right word. I go through some words. You give that acknowledgement. That is when now you start going into that above those layers, and you go into your environment, and you go to above and beyond your environment. That is the piece where humanity has been like, okay, we've done the 52%. We understand that. We actually came into the world with that 52% knowledge. We were already there, okay? And then we let the environment around us start taking away that power. We started giving it away to the environment because we weren't quite for sure. And the environment around us is very strong. It can be very manipulating. It can be very challenging for some people. That is where we start giving away our 52% to the environment around. That environment doesn't come back and give us that back typically, unless you know how to go into that environment and utilize it for yourself to regain your power back. So people now have to work extra harder to build themselves back up. This is where we get caught up in all the stuff all around. What is that person doing? What are they doing?
Just some distractions.
Yes.
And
the movies and all this other stuff.
Everything. Can be exceedingly challenging, especially in our modern world. Now, before we go on though, I do want to say, like, we're going to revisit a few of these concepts and simplify it and clarify it. Like, you know, because there's times when it's even for us where we're like, oh my God, wow.
Yeah.
That's because people working harder to regain. So
yeah.
I would say that I came to a point in my own evolution with this 52% where I was born with it, knew it.
Yes.
Started losing it roughly around the age of 6 and really went bankrupt with it. I don't know how many years ago.
I like that term.
I did. Yeah, I was like bankrupt. And when I was bankrupt with it, I was really physically ill. Everything was so hard.
Yeah.
And what made everything so hard even harder is that I could remember that it didn't used to be so hard in my own life.
Yeah.
So I had a comparison, and I did it. It was like bankrupt, great word. And then the thing is though, it really is as simple as this moment where you go, you know what? There's 52% in me. It's weird, Kim, because it's like we can give it away, but we can also very quickly get it back.
We can.
Yes. Because it's like it was always ours.
You have to ask.
You have to ask, is right. Yeah. That is like a major, major one. You have to ask. You have to ask.
And most people think of when you ask, that means I'm asking angels, I'm asking spirit guides, I'm asking God. But what you're really doing is asking yourself to take back your power. What is it that I need to take back my power? Whatever it is, you're giving yourself permission to ask.
Yes. And yes, most people think they have to ask externally, and there is an asking externally, but there is an internal asking that we have tended to skip over. And that really brings us to what I would call is like, on Earth, we have that, the duality is always here with us. And I use the word always because it is, we're in the dimension here on Earth. That's a dual dimension. So interesting to me, people see that duality as splitting people apart. It's actually not a split.
No.
It's not separate. It's like we talked about one other time, and we could dig into this another time too, is the two sides of the brain. Yes, there's two sides of a brain, but we actually only have one brain. That's where I'm going with this. Two sides of asking. Mm-hmm. We have been so ingrained that we ask externally. Mm-hmm. We've forgotten about the other side of our brain, which is to ask internally for the return of our own power.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Would you say that may actually be like step number 1 towards like physical?
Yes. And I get pulled to a lot of concepts of, say, AA. We're going to pick on them.
Okay.
And it literally comes down to...
Air quote, pick on them.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
You're not picking on them, but
no.
I get what you're saying.
That it comes down to acknowledgement. Kind of like you have to acknowledge you have a problem. So they're saying there's levels that they have with theirs to get through their program. Okay. And they're like, they're not wrong. They're not wrong. And then I get pulled to the grieving process, and I don't remember which psychologist or philosophist said this, but there's different stages of grieving that we go through. Whenever you go through some sort of loss, you go through the grieving stages, and they can kind of bounce back and forth. The same thing with a lot of these programs that are designed. This is the same thing, same concept, that the physical body, or being in a physical body, let's put it that way, being in a physical body, you need some sort of kind of structure to help you go through it. So in this concept of when you're trying to find your 52%, absolutely, you need to ask first. You need, for one, ask yourself, do you give yourself permission? Do you allow yourself? So they're like, asking questions is, they show me like a first key, and I see 3 boxes, 3 old keys, skeleton key. It's ways to unlock who you are.
Yeah.
If you don't ask, you're never going to know.
Right. Incredibly powerful to ask questions. Now, let me just throw a few things out there that I believe as humans we'd rather do than ask questions, which is really funny because it's way easier to ask a question.
Yep.
And yet we would rather go to what I would call the extremes of duality. If I can't have perfect, vibrant health right now, I don't want it. We wouldn't say that, but that is actually what we're saying when we won't ask the questions. Because when we ask the questions, we're also consenting to journey through the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And the journey can be a little, what would be the word? It's just a journey is a journey. It's not perfect. Let's put it that way. Mm-hmm. And there is something in our minds that has been, here's what's coming to you. There's something in our minds that has been trained, if you will, to split duality. Okay? It's either good or bad.
Yep.
Okay, since my health is not good right now, therefore it must be bad. And you're asking me to ask questions, which means I have to admit my health is bad, and I want to do anything but do that. So I'm just not going to ask questions. Whatever. Yep. It's giving away our power.
Yep.
I've looked at it where I said, kind of like look at duality as a coin. You have 2 sides of a coin, but both sides are still one.
Yep.
So while your health may not be good right now, or your health may be bad right now, I'll say it that way, it can also simultaneously still be good just by asking some questions. That journey can actually be a beautiful thing. It can actually be very intriguing. It doesn't have to be this horrible, terrible journey, which the split mind has actually convinced us that if my health is bad, it's 100% bad.
Yep.
Or 0% good. And so it's going to be a horrible journey getting back. It's like, it's not split like that. It's not. I know this simply because I've been there, Kim. I've experienced it in my mind, where my mind was like, it's all bad, it's all bad, it's all bad. And I created a pretty bad physical experience, which is all right because I learned from it. But I now know where I'm like,
You don't give it the power.
Over
time.
Yeah.
Over time, you've learned to, you didn't know to ask the questions, especially when you're 6 years old.
Right.
You don't have somebody guiding you and giving you those tools or those resources because they probably don't know them themselves.
Right.
So here you are at 6 years old, like you're not quite for sure what questions to even ask. So now you get to sit with it, and now you get to have somebody tell you who is your authority.
So you have someone who's your authority?
Yep, your authority.
Yeah.
Somebody who has power because you're looking to find your power. So you go to the people in your environment and the ones that you consider your power. So typically our parents. And we look for that support. And if you don't get the answers or the questions or whatever it is, you don't get it back where you feel a sense of safety, security, or you don't feel better, you automatically start right away recognizing, your body recognizes, okay, that was power, and power did not serve me well. Okay? Not that it was right nor wrong, it's just like your body perceived it as there was a lack of power. So then anytime you are going to find your own power, you right away think of not right away, but over time you
over
realize...
time you grow into this habit. And
Yep.
it's kind of like a self-defeating habit.
Yep.
What comes to me about that is, we had talked about earlier today, how cultures, ancient or older cultures, I don't even know where they all are, but anyway, in timeline, I mean, whether they were ancient, I don't think all of them were ancient is what
Right.
I'm saying. They had more of an integrated teaching of power, of this 52% of being empowered in our bodies.
Yeah.
So when you're just talking about parents, now we have parents who I think went in some ways the opposite of what you just explained, which was, you just described a not good interaction with power, where now we
Yeah.
have parents who have given 6-year-olds all of the power.
Yeah.
Okay, neither one of those are that's the split duality extreme.
Yep.
We're not supposed to have either one of those. We're actually supposed to have more of an integrated,
Yes.
okay. And that's, I think, what we need to learn, the new skills. That's what I believe that we can have loads of fun making sense of and explaining and giving tips and tools and, helpful resources, all this kind of stuff of building a skill set, if you will.
Yep. Yeah, you said the word integration, and that was like key. There's so many things that we have tried to run away from.
Yeah.
Because of the good or bad, the duality, all that, like we try to run away. So it's kind of like, even in the medical world, there's Eastern, Western, and God forbid you go one way or the other. It's literally, no, it's integration of the whole.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be.
You actually absolutely need the integration of the whole. You also absolutely need a contrary opinion that you may not agree with.
Yep.
Because that contrary opinion, say, can help you know.
And it helps you ask questions.
Helps you get clear.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So recently I was talking with someone about, and it's an organizational thing, anyways, what we were talking about. And this organization was filled with people who are of like mind. Now, we all enjoy being around people, if you want to scale it, and enjoy or dislike, like or dislike. Again, that's that real extreme separated thinking, okay? But we do it all the time. We all tend to enjoy being around people who are like-minded. But when we start to create a life of like-mindedness, life becomes actually very imbalanced.
Yes.
And I said, if you in an organization, I said it was someone who had a security mindset was in a health and wellness place, and she could see the really big holes in their security, and they needed better security. And this wasn't from fear or anything; they just needed better security. They didn't have anyone around with a security mindset advising them clearly, because the holes were so big that I'm not even someone who looks at that stuff and starts to see that. She was describing it to me. I was like almost going, "Oh my God, are you like?" I was almost, "Are you kidding me?" Like, the opportunities to take advantage of those like gaps in security. If I can see them, I'm not kidding you, they're bad, because I don't sit and like study that stuff. Yeah, and it really came down to this, like, they needed to have a group of people advising on the culture of this center that came from different backgrounds, different lines of thinking, actually not like-mindedness, if you will.
Yep.
And out of that, if they can build an integrated consensus, they will build an amazing thing. And for some reason, as humans, we've gotten to this point of, I only want to be around people that agree with me.
Yep.
But that's strangely super disempowering. If you feel any sense of being empowered by being around like-minded people, it's a false sense of being empowered.
Absolutely.
We were made to have this level, a degree of being integrated with what we say like and don't like, which is not the same, if you would, I'm gonna go here, it's not the same as saying, if you will, like good and evil. I'm saying like and dislike. I'm not saying engage like diabolical attitudes in people, because there are people with those in the world. So that, I'm not saying, hey.
Right.
Okay? You still have to be aware and engaged of who you will sit and ask questions with and ask questions of.
Yep.
Because not everyone is a good person. There are some diabolical thinkers in this world.
Yep.
And quite honestly, there's some of those thinkers I don't want to have conversations with. But there's some people that I just kind of don't like. that I really do need to learn from them.
Absolutely.
But it's a skill to learn to do that, Kim, to ask these questions. I guess that's all. I'm kind of going off on this thing of like, it sounds very simple to ask questions, but it can also get tricky if we're only asking the questions that we like, and we're only asking questions, you know, you got to ask, like, okay, when I graduated into 4-day headaches, I have to ask a very uncomfortable question.
Mm-hmm.
How did I get to having 4-day headaches? And I will tell you the truth, I didn't want to ask that question for a long time.
Yeah.
But once I asked that question and started getting those answers, I came out of those headaches way faster than the very slow slide into them. And it was a multi-year slide into them, and it was less than a year out by asking questions. So while it might be uncomfortable or even unenjoyable to ask some of these questions, is so worth it because it gets you maybe out of something you don't want to be in and into something you do want. It's truly powerful.
It really is. 100%.
Yeah.
You're like 100%.
Now we hit the 100%. Yes. Sweet.
Oh.
Got other stuff to add? Or summarize, or?
Oh my God, you're going like this.
They were getting...
They're applauding you.
Applauding me?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you.
There you go, Jill. Take it.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
I like, that was even actually so big where it's like, wow, how do you summarize that? I don't even know that I can necessarily summarize it as much as I can say there will be more around this.
Yes.
More clarity, more support, more tools. You know, I guess one thing I can definitely summarize is that we talked about convoluting safety, comfort, and there was one other one that I'm not remembering right now. Oh, attachment. Safety, comfort, and attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding in the world that we live in right now, words do not always and actually rarely mean what that word.
Correct.
Okay, so you had said something about being safe in the body. And I think that might be a nice place for us to start, say, a next conversation. Because that, like, piqued me. I was like, wow, that's a huge concept that I would love to explore more of, to feel safe in our own body. Because for a long time I didn't feel safe in my body because of the amounts of pain that I was having. And the length of time that I had pain. Now, it also grew into a story. It grew into all sorts of stuff. And quite honestly, weirdly, I became comfortable in a story of not being safe in my body. I became attached to that story.
Oh, yes.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And yet I'd say, I want to feel good in my body, but I was so highly attached to that story.
And then you want to continue to repeat that story.
Yeah.
Like
so,
over and over.
And it was like pain. I became attached to a story and comfortable in a story of pain that started when I was 6, that culminated to multi-day headaches by the time I was 50. Like bad headaches, like the worst I'd ever had, which is then when I had to stop and ask the question, you know, pardon my French, but like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, wow. And what happened was I had to ask some really important questions. I had to also ask for some help because I was below my 50%.
Yep.
I needed help.
Yep.
And it's okay to ask for that help too. But it was, I would say, it was without a doubt, it was stopping, looking, observing, becoming aware, honest.
And that's what takes your power back. So sometimes you have to experience those situations for you to realize that you have given your power up. Whether you knew it or didn't know it subconsciously, it just happened over time.
Yeah. So we will explore this more, I'd say, in our next talk. We can listen to this like last few and pick it up then when we talk again. I will want to share the one thing where you said how we get our power back. Very small example, but very concrete and useful, I think. So I have my eyelids, like I said, just like itchy. Mm-hmm. Now the old me would have gone down like almost like a wormhole with that, which would have been a disempowering, like, oh my gosh, this hurts. There would have been a whole story around it. But oddly, I would have found comfort in the discomfort of it. But it wasn't comfort in it. I was actually mixing up the word comfort the concept comfort, I guess, I was becoming attached.
Yep.
I would have been attached to it. And to the attention you get when you have something wrong physically.
Yes.
Like there was loads of attachments in it.
Yep.
So what I did yesterday was I literally just observed it. I became aware of it. Like, this is so super annoying. And I was like, oh, annoying. Oh. And what I realized just through like sitting with it and then asking some questions too, is that I've been having things that have irritated me and annoyed me in my life, and rather than just acknowledging, and I don't mean like right now, I mean like for a long time in life, anything that would come up that would irritate or annoy me, like rather than really just seeing that and asking about it, I just stored it in my body.
Yep.
And now it's coming out. It's like, it's not like there's tons of stuff around me irritating and annoying me in my life right now. What's coming out is, hey, these old habits.
Yeah. We're bringing them to the surface. Make a different choice. Now you're more consciously aware. Yep.
Yeah. But it was a challenge to stay in an empowered place with it. And I had a few moments yesterday where I fell out of empowerment with it and what I would then call kind of into victimization. Like, oh my God. And literally like my mind, I needed to get clear in my mind, change my mindset, because I was just spiraling down with it. It's very funny now, but yesterday it was quite challenging because it was so uncomfortable. Because the physical, to feel safe in our body, even when we don't feel healthy, if you will. And it's not that I felt unhealthy yesterday, but I would say with the things that were going on, I felt more unhealthy than healthy yesterday, which means I also felt more unsafe, say, than safe in my body. Yeah. But by the time I tuned in and did some stuff, it turned out to be a really great day to learn like how to embrace what's right here and be empowered even if it's not perfect. Again, does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a hard time letting their mind even go to those depths and to those lengths of thinking, processing. They get shut off with the story. Yeah. And that attachment, they get shut off right there. So this is going to be very powerful for a lot of people to kind of think outside the box. They talk about, in your job or this, think outside the box. But people have no idea what that really means. I was told it a long time ago. In school, well, think outside the box. I don't know what you mean by thinking outside the box. Like,
Quite honestly, thinking outside of the box is a little bit like I said at that organization before. Yeah. You're going to kind of piss yourself off a little bit. Yeah. I kind of pissed myself off yesterday. Yep. When I started thinking it through. And it's weird. Here's what's really weird and funny about it. Is I wanted to just go on with my day as usual. And when I started really paying attention to what was going on with my eyes and everything else, I realized I can't. I mean, I can, but no. If you really want to address this physical thing that's really, really talking to you right now, I had to ask questions and go a different direction than I wanted to. I basically pissed myself off. I wasn't like-minded with myself. Yep. I wasn't in consensus with my own story at that moment. It was really wild. Yeah. And the simplest thing, Kim, I will close it on this, is that finally last night, all day this went on, and all day I kind of tiptoed around the edge of this. I knew something was going on, but I wasn't diving into it. I was just tiptoeing around the edge of it and asking questions and stopping this. And one thing I will do is I'll just let myself go and rest sometimes, which was more like meditation than rest. Yep. In the past, it would have been sleep, check out, leave. Yes. This time it was more just go into a meditative space, like, what's going on here? But anyway, the point is it took me till about 7 o'clock at night to do yin yoga, which finally balanced my body. Mm-hmm. That's about 12 hours. I'd like us,
yourself up.
Right? Yep. I was going to say, I would like us to explore tips, tools, talks, resources that help people do any of that faster, if possible. And it's just because 12 hours was a very long time of beating myself up, where I probably, when we practice these skills... Did you have
to get to the point, too, where you were literally felt defeated? Like...
Pretty much like, okay, if I don't do something right now, I am just going to lose my shit. Like, my mind, I just was having a hard time.
So why do we do that as humans? Exactly. Why do we literally push ourselves to the breaking point before we finally say, oh, fine, I will let go. And you're like,
because again, and this is a great wrap up, and we'll start with it this next time, is that I think we have been so trained into an extreme. It's either all or nothing. We either use our left brain or our right brain, and we have forgotten we are literally both our left and our right. We are everything and nothing.
Yep.
We are that integrated whole. The one harmonic whole is what we call it, right?
Yep.
And it's like we have that 52% is our God-given right. It's right here. Not God-given, call it whatever you want.
Yep.
Don't care. It's in us. And it's like we will have done everything but that. That's what 12 hours of beating myself up was, just to come back around. Like I could have that morning done yin yoga for about an hour to 2 hours, and I probably would have been perfectly fine the rest of my day. And instead, wow.
Yep. Instead, let me just sit with it.
So, just stop briefly at times and ask.
Ask. If you don't ask, you're never.
And you're asking yourself in a way right now. We're saying ask yourself.
Yep,
like
ask
I could have stopped and said, what could I do right now to have made myself to feel better?
You can, most of the time you ask yourself. Every once in a while, if you are not getting the message to yourself, when I say message, that means sometimes you just hear it, sometimes you just get a feeling, sometimes you are literally looking at, say, a product. Say I'm in the fridge. I keep going to the fridge. For whatever reason, I keep looking at lemon juice. So I'm like, I don't want lemon juice. Your physical body is literally saying you need lemon juice for this issue. So you have to pay attention to what you are literally being guided. You're asking the question, but you may not always hear it. But your energy vibration is going to bring you to your answers. If that means that you need to, all of a sudden you feel like I gotta stretch. Pay attention. Your body's all of a sudden just naturally stretching. Go with it.
And see, exactly. The more this will be the first practice. Just practice asking, bringing it to mind. It's almost like we're in preschool with it right now.
Yeah.
And we will matriculate and work our way, practice our way towards becoming, like PhDs in this. But we don't, it's, again, that extreme mind is like, if I'm not a PhD, why would I ask questions?
Yeah.
Because they're really powerful.
Yeah.
And when we learn this very simple tool, we get so much information though.
Yep.
So, yeah. Wow.
Yep.
Ask. Beautiful. Yep. Okay.
Yes.
Got anything else to share? I mean, I know you do, but right now, today, we're good?
Yeah. I just get in my head, make a list of the tools. Start making a list of the tools. I'm like, oh shit, like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I like that.